The SRL on the NFL. Previews, predictions, and analysis covering every storyline in football every week. The SRL on the NFL. What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to the SRL on the NFL. My name is Brendan Yerkes. I have Alex back with me this week. That's Alex Fachaponte. I was by myself last week, but it's week 18. We made it to the last week of the NFL regular season, and it's been an interesting season to say the least, but we're ready. We're going to make our picks once again, go over last week's games, and get us ready for the playoffs here.
Oh my gosh, the playoffs are going to be insane. We're going to obviously make some brackets, make some predictions for that as well. But yeah, week 18, it's going to be, I would argue this is probably the second toughest week of the year. I think week 1 is always the toughest, and then this is always really tough too, because then you don't know what teams are playing for, you don't know what teams are resting, so it gets confusing.
Yeah, very true. You don't know who's playing, who's not. And yeah, like Alex said, we're going to do next week playoff brackets, how we think the whole thing's going to go, and then also our predictions for the individual games. So then from that point on, we'll just do the individual games every week and talk about other storylines as coaches are hired and stuff like that as the playoffs progress. So it won't just be like a 5-minute episode. We'll have some other storylines to talk about, and then we'll leading up to the Super Bowl, we'll have episodes on that, and then after that, we'll see what we do. Maybe like a once a month type of deal, or just whenever things kind of happen, just to stay in the loop, talk about free agency, the draft, and then stuff like that. But when we get to that bridge, we'll cross it when we get there. So last week, I went over all the picks, but Alex did make his own picks, like usual. But we just had it on the social media. I went 14-2. He went 12-4. So now I hold a 2-game lead going into the last week of the regular season. So it's been very close all year. I took a nice little lead. So hopefully I can close that out and get a nice little victory here on what seems like it's been forever. It's been like 4 months of this now. So
Crazy.
we've been at this every week, and I'm glad we've been able to make it to this point. So we're going to go through last week's games first. Before we do that, check us out on social media at srl.media on Instagram and TikTok. And to listen to this podcast, go on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or YouTube for the video version, all of those SRL Media. All right, starting off with Christmas, the Chiefs and the Steelers. The Steelers are finally, I think, showing that they are a fraudulent team. And they're still a good team, but not the elite team that they seem to be early on in the year. They lose another game, this time in major fashion, to the Kansas City Chiefs.
I think it's also just that the Chiefs are starting to turn up a bit. Mahomes finally is, looking like Mahomes, like 3 touchdowns, 320 yards. I feel like that's really important. Getting
Hunt and Kelsey, too, is, I think, the big thing for me.
Yeah, big thing.
Did it on the wrong week. They did it the week before. My fantasy team would have been great, but...
Right. Yeah, needed that.
Yeah, no, but I think Kelsey getting involved is just the right time. It was him in the playoffs. The two of them have that rapport. They know how to win, and they need their run game to be going. The defense has been solid. They only give up 10 points here to the Steelers, to an offense that's struggled at times during the year, but the defense is very good, and they did their job shutting it down. And the offense having a really good game, so that's just what they needed.
Yeah. I just, I don't know with the Steelers. They're such a weird team. I don't know if I trust them going into the playoffs, but we'll see.
And yeah, so moving forward, another AFC game, the Ravens and the Texans, and the Ravens stomped the Texans on Christmas, 31-2. That was crazy.
Rough. Yeah, I'm concerned for this Texans team. Like, yeah, they won the division. Obviously, they don't look as good as they need to look, but and also though for the Ravens, like the Ravens are really starting to kick it into gear here for the playoffs. I think they're going to have a much better playoff run than people are giving them credit for.
They might be the hottest team in the AFC rolling in.
Give or take,
I can't say hottest team in general because I think the NFC has multiple teams that are flying right now. But
yeah,
the Texans, I don't know what's going on. I mean, they're the worst division in football, so they won it like weeks ago.
Nice
and they had their moments, but I just think there hasn't been a point all year where like this team looks good and they look consistent. They've like kind of stumbled to wins, not blown some games. They just made it out, and now they're into the playoffs. So I don't know. They have the home game, so you never know what can happen.
Yeah, it hurts with the injuries though, like especially the Diggs, because it really felt like him and Stroud were really developing a good connection. But yeah, he's gone. So for the year, but yeah, it's been rough. It's been rough for them.
Certainly has been. All right, the Thursday night game, maybe the worst game of the year, the Seahawks and the Bears. 6-3, the Seahawks
Wow.
take that one. No touchdowns. A bettor's worst nightmare. The Bears
Good
have still
defense.
not won since the Hail Mary incident against the Commanders. I think that was in October at this point.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, they were 4-2,
They were
right?
4-2, and now they're like 4 and what, like
12.
12?
4-12. Oh my
10
god.
straight losses.
That's
That's crazy.
insane. That's absolutely insane. You cannot make that up. You
It's
cannot make that
When
up.
you think you're 4-2, you're like, oh, maybe we won't make the
Feel
playoffs.
good.
We're gonna be in the hunt. We're gonna have a nice competitive season, and you just
Right,
lose
you're
10
feeling
straight
good.
games. Well, you have a game one and you lose on a Hail Mary, and then you just don't win.
Just don't win. Oh my gosh, that's insane.
You didn't know that?
Well, no, I knew that, but like it's
Just
just
thinking
so
about it,
just like the idea of like, all right,
right?
we started off 4-2, like we're feeling pretty good, and then wow, we haven't won in months. Like that's insane. I don't know. It's
Right.
just insane.
Well, they've been out of it. On the other hand, the Seahawks, they get the win, but they were eliminated this week with other teams winning games and stuff like that. I don't think the Seahawks at this stage deserve to make the playoffs the way they've been playing. They've shown they had a nice little stretch. I think from like weeks like 10 to 14, they kind of picked it up a little bit. But now in recent weeks, they've looked like they haven't been great. The offense has really struggled. Defense has been good, but I just think that with the other teams that are fighting for the playoffs, they haven't looked their best, and the other team definitely took it away from them.
They went 5-2 their last 7 games, which is pretty good. It's just those 2 losses came to Green Bay and Minnesota, who were just powerhouses right now in the NFC. So I just feel like they met a tough point in their schedule. I think the Seahawks are a pretty solid team, but yeah, there's too many good teams right now,
Right.
especially in the NFC.
All right, now to the Saturday games, the Chargers and the Patriots. The Chargers win 40-7. I don't think that's really a surprise there. They've locked
Nope.
up a playoff spot. They're in the wild card race. I think they're at about 6 right now, 5 or 6, kind of give or take with what happens with the Steelers coming this week. The Patriots are a disaster. Gerard Mayo, we'll see if he keeps the job or not, but he's really been in over his head this year, so I'm not really sure which way that's going to go. The Broncos and the Bengals. The Bengals get the win in overtime after
Wow.
they missed 2 field goals in this game. The Bengals, they still find a way to get the win, and it was crazy, but the Bengals are alive.
That game though, like in terms of the theatrics of back and forth, like was just cinema. That was playoff football. To me, that felt like playoff football, which was great. And these are 2 teams just going at it for a playoff spot, and it was a really tough battle. I do think though that the Bengals just are a more talented team, even though their defense is just atrocious. They just have too much offensive firepower, and that clearly showed here. Broncos are not going to be able to keep up in terms of that offense.
Yeah, the Bengals, their defense has struggled, but I think they've picked it up enough where they can give the offense a chance to outscore that. And listen, they made some big stops late in the game, and obviously they gave the touchdown to Bo Nix that tied the game, but they made their big stops in overtime to give the Bengals the ball back, and then the offense did what they do and got in field goal range, and then they just said, you know what, we're going to score a touchdown because we're not letting you kick another field goal, and they won the game. So Bo Nix, another solid performance, but Joe Burrow, I mean, he's got to be in the MVP conversation. I don't think he's going to win it, but I think he needs to get that due for single-handedly seemingly willing this team to the playoff
I
race.
mean, he'll get like some conversation, and like he's leading the league in passing yards per game, leading the league in passing yards in general, 42 passing touchdowns, which is ridiculous. It's just the team. Part of it is team success, and they're just not there yet.
Right.
And in terms
I don't think he's going to win. What I'm saying,
no,
I think he needs to get that respect because he basically has willed the team to this position single-handedly.
I think he'll get like third. I think
Right.
he'll get third.
I mean, I think it's between Josh Allen and Lamar at this point,
Yeah,
all in the AFC. But
definitely.
I think Saquon should be in the discussion too. I don't think he's going to win either, but I think he should be involved there. We can make some picks for the awards next week if we have time. Obviously, the playoffs take priority.
Right. Yeah, definitely.
All right, so the Rams beat the Cardinals 13-9. The Cardinals were eliminated already. The Rams set themselves up to win the NFC West with this game, and they did just that. As later in the night, they got the win when the Falcons lost. I believe was the game that set it up.
Mhm.
I don't know how that really affiliated, but I guess like wild card stuff.
Yeah, wild card. Yeah.
And so they clinched that division. The Cardinals were out already. They didn't really have a great game. The Rams only scored 13 points, but they did what they had to do. So now they could feel good. They're going to the playoffs, getting a little healthy. So, watch out for them. A lot of experience there and a lot of good younger guys, too, that they drafted. Some success there. All right. Giants, after winning all these games, they had the first overall pick for 1 week. Then Drew Lock has the game of his life. They win 45-33 over the Colts. I don't know. The Colts fans are probably pissed because they thought they were in the race. Now they lose. They're eliminated. And the Giants now dropped from the first pick to the sixth pick. Alex, have at it.
So, well, currently at the fourth pick. But still, here's where I'm at with this. It's actually crazy that after a single game, both fan bases are furious. Because that usually never happens. Usually one fan base is pretty happy, one's pretty annoyed. Nope, both fan bases are furious. Colts fans, they really wanted to make the playoffs. They wanted to make a push, and they obviously couldn't anymore. Here's where I'm at with the Giants. It's just like, we can't even be good at losing. We can't even be good at losing. We had the first pick locked up. They need a quarterback. They need to turn things around with the quarterback. And Drew Lock, of course, has the game of his life. And then he says, oh, well, this is for the fans. Like, they need it. No, Drew Lock. This is not for the fans. No. We do not need this win. We do not need this win. Yeah, thanks for the useless win to slide us to the fourth pick so that we can't get a quarterback or a really impactful player. Thanks. We really needed that. And now they're looking towards obviously trying this week against the Eagles, which they're resting some of their starters. So now if the Giants win that game, they'll probably slot to like 9 or 10. After having such an abysmal year, getting rid of Daniel Jones, you need to get a new quarterback. But if you're at around 9 or 10, you're not going to get that guy. There's not a deep quarterback class this year. So you need to be around that 2 to maybe 3, 4. I don't think you could get a real quarterback at that point. So it's just my frustration is just we can't even lose right. After having such an abysmal year. We can't even lose right. That's my problem with the Giants right now. It's ridiculous. You can't make this up. You cannot.
I get it. I mean, I felt this way when the Jets beat the Rams in 2020. Now, if they had Trevor Lawrence, everyone's like, well, Trevor Lawrence didn't turn out to what you thought he would be. Right. But I also don't think the Jets would be in this disaster of a situation. I thought he would be better because the Jets had a little bit more talent than the Jaguars did. And then this whole Zach Wilson disaster, Aaron Rodgers disaster would have never happened because you at least have somebody who was solid and better than what they've had at all.
Right.
And now, the Giants, you can't tell the players to tank, especially guys that are fighting for jobs. So, like, you understand that, but don't say it's for the fans like that. Then you can't be mad at the players for trying to win a football game, but you can be mad that they lost.
Yeah, I mean, you couldn't just. I mean, you've lost so terribly throughout this year. Listen, if this win came like a few months ago, it's like whatever. But it's like we've gotten so far to this point.
Right. That's how I felt about the Jets situation a few years ago. It's like they were 0-13.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like if you were if you won like 2 games and you went 2-4 and then you lose like a whole bunch of games, like, oh, you already have the 2 wins. But like at that point you lose every game. It's like, oh, what's the point?
Yeah.
So I get it. I do. But then again, you never know what's going to happen. I remember in 2019, the Giants won like a game or two at the end of the year, and they dropped from the second pick to the fourth pick, and they didn't get Chase Young. Chase Young had a great first year for the Commanders or Washington at the time, and everyone's like, "Oh, the Giants messed up; they didn't get this guy." And then now look at him. He's not even in the league anymore. He's like a backup or something.
He was playing on the Saints this year, I think.
That's what I thought. I knew he was on the 49ers, and I was pretty sure he went to the Saints. But now he's just you don't hear anything about him.
Move around guy.
Which that's a one story. I mean, he was really good those first 2 years, but
I wanted to see them get their I wanted to see this Giants front office regime get their own guy to develop as a quarterback, and I don't see how that's possible anymore unless they trade up, and now you're giving up a bunch of assets, which is probably not a good idea. You don't want to put yourself in the position that the Panthers put themselves in a couple years ago, where you overpay and you don't have anything else on the roster, and it just is an absolute mess, which is what Bryce Young is in right now.
Right.
So I'd rather not do that either. So it's just like, it's now a horrible situation through and through. Obviously, they need to lose this week to have any chance, and they need now other teams to lose because of strength of schedule. So like that's going to be an issue. Now, if the Patriots hold on to pick number 1, there is a possibility for them to trade up, and then the Patriots obviously are not going to take a quarterback probably. So there's an easy trade up, trade down situation, but there's leverage then on both sides. Well, the Giants need a quarterback, but we know that the Patriots aren't going to take a quarterback, but they still have the number 1 pick. So like there's that dynamic. How much do you give up? It gets confusing. It gets confusing fast. And I
Right.
didn't want to be in that spot. We could have just gotten pick 1 if we just kept losing. That's my problem.
Well, you never know what's going to happen, but yeah, I don't think there's any way they shoot back up. Let's move along here. The Jets played the Bills 40-14. Buffalo dominates the Jets. Not shocking. Rodgers just disaster again. Has open guys, could run. They could have had a chance to tie the game or take the lead in first quarter. Messed up the play, and just the game kind of followed suit. The Bills are a better team. The Jets didn't really expect anything. I thought it would maybe be close, but not really going to add too much more. Not really surprising at this point. And one more game of this disastrous season. And Jeff Ulbrich, who expects to interview for the Jets head coaching job, he will not even be close to getting it. And Rodgers might play in his last game of his career next week. They said that's a possibility. We don't know what's going to happen with him, but there's going to be a lot of changes and a lot of overhaul from what happened this year. We'll get to that soon. But they interviewed Mike Vrabel the other day. They're interviewing Rex Ryan next week. They also interviewed Ron Rivera for the head coaching job, and I have a few GM interviews done as well with Thomas Dimitroff, John Robinson, and Louis Riddick are what I've seen so far.
Ooh,
So
Riddick. Interesting.
We'll see which way they go. I think Vrabel's the top guy. Rex has a lot of fan interest, but we'll see what they do. We'll see. We have some time to figure that out. Right, Jacksonville beat Tennessee, so they dropped lower in the draft order, 20-13. Again, 2 bad teams, 2, I guess, somewhat rivals in the AFC South. Not much really to add here, but the Jags get the win. This one's another shocking one. The Raiders, 2 in a row. They shot from the first pick down to I think 9 or something. They're far down.
That's crazy.
With 25-10, they beat the Saints. The Saints are just a terrible, terrible team.
Yep.
Which is full circle to this podcast. When we started, when we were like, the Saints are very
dangerous
very
team.
good 2-0 team, and they've just been a nightmare since.
Yep. I remember that.
Oh, but yeah, the Raiders somehow shoot down, but I know there's some talent. I think they're a well coached team. They might get rid of Pierce, but he's there to win when he can. 48-14, the Bucs destroy the Panthers. The Panthers actually had this close in the beginning. I was like, oh, the Bucs might blow this division lead, and then they didn't. Bryce Young had a solid game overall, but Baker, 359 yards, 5 touchdowns,
oh my God,
85% completion percentage. It's crazy. Bucky Irving, another high rushing game, 2 touchdowns from Mike Evans. So that offense is rolling. All they have to do this week, win, and they are into a playoff spot. And I believe they play the Saints. So I think they should have it on luck, especially with the Falcons' loss last week, which we're getting close to now. Eagles and the Cowboys, 41-7. The Eagles win. I think we saw that one coming even without Jalen Hurts. They have just too much talent. Miami and Cleveland. Miami's still alive here. We'll talk about the scenario before we get to the next games. But they win 20-3. Cleveland, bad team. Miami, Tyler Huntley had a solid game. And it looks like Tua is not going to be playing this coming week either.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Packers, Vikings. We both had the Packers in this one. The Vikings end up getting the win. Sam Darnold with another amazing game. He's going to get paid by the Vikings. I think it's all coming to that. But he's led them now to a chance to go from being a wild card all season to being the number 1 seed and the NFC North champion, which nobody saw coming. I think they were the consensus worst team in that division.
Yep.
So that's fun for them. But I'm not concerned either way. If I'm the Packers, like Jordan Love didn't have his best game, but you lost to a good team. You're in the playoffs, so I'm not fully concerned at this point.
And you only lost by 2.
Right.
It was a close game.
They were down. They came back.
Right. Close game. Take it.
All right. The Sunday night game was nuts. The Falcons and the Commanders. The Commanders, I think both teams miss field goals at the end of that game.
Yeah, it was rough.
It's overtime, and then
a rough one.
It was all over the place, and the Commanders go down and get the win. This was a really fun game to watch. I called it the Hofstra Bowl because the both head coaches that had Hofstra ties. Raheem Morris played there, and Dan Quinn coached there. So that was pretty fun for me. And the Falcons, you thought they were going to somehow pull it out. I thought it was the Commanders' game. They blew it. They gave up a touchdown to Atlanta at the end, the fourth down play. It was all
Hmm.
crazy. Bijan had a solid game. Michael Penix Jr. looks pretty solid so far early in his career, but it's the same story all year. Jaden Daniels and the Commanders find a way to get it done. And, they go to the playoffs. They clinch the spot there with this win. And he had 3 touchdowns, 227 yards, 66% completion. It's a lot of fun to watch. This team, how they've kind of turned it around so quickly, and it's going to be a lot coming from them. So now this game was really good. It puts the Falcons on the brink.
I want to say something with the Commanders. Obviously very impressed with what they've been able to accomplish this year, but what I do notice a lot too is they win a lot of close games, and I think that proves like how battle tested that they've been this year. Where if you're able to close out those really tight ones, or you pull off that like magical play with that like Hail Mary type of thing, uh, that yeah, it's like sort of lucky and like yeah, like it's not fully sustainable. It shows like they're able to fight through those tough games. And when you're in the playoffs, you're going to be in those tough, grinded out games. And I think Washington could give a lot of playoff teams a really good fight. So this is going to be really interesting to see what they'll be able to accomplish in the playoffs.
But yeah, certainly it's been fun to watch what they've done winning these games. But Dan Quinn, he's a solid coach. We knew that already. Gets his second chance, and he's definitely shown out with that chance. All right, Lions and 49ers was the Monday night game. The 49ers actually kept it close, and they were hanging around a little bit, but the Lions are just better. They pulled away, and they set themselves up for this game against Minnesota next week, which is now the Sunday night game. Win and in. I don't really have too much to add on this one other than just the Lions' offense look good.
I
Like
have
they
something to
typically
add.
have.
This is pretty interesting. I think that was literally the first football game we've watched together this year. And
Yes,
yeah,
it was.
yeah. So you
It's
know
been a
what?
busy
That
few
is
months.
interesting. Yeah.
That was
But
yeah, it was a good game.
that was a good game. That was a really good game. It was very entertaining. Even though the Niners are have obviously been injured, they're out of the playoff spot. They still put up a really good fight, and it was a really intriguing game. But the Lions are obviously the better team and pulled out on top.
And you got to expect the 49ers will be back next year. They were very injured. They're going to they usually draft well in the
Yeah.
later rounds. Obviously, sometimes they miss in the first round, but they've drafted well in the later rounds, finding pieces. People sign there. They're good in free agency. So, you got to think they're going to be back
Oh
in the
yeah.
mix to win that division and be a high seed next year.
Yeah.
Sometimes injuries just happen. And they didn't have the best performances from some of their skill guys. So another
Right.
offseason that could reflect, I think, will bring them back into that top area last week. But the Lions get a little revenge on the NFC Championship game they thought they had last year. All right, so before we go into picks for Week 18, we're just going to run through the playoff picture real quick. So in the AFC, the Chiefs have lined up the number 1 seed. That's already solid.
Yep.
The Bills are the number 2 seed. That's also locked up. And then the number 3 seed will also be, I believe, the Ravens, unless the Steelers have tiebreakers. I think the Ravens have it.
Unless they. Oh, it's confirmed that they have the
I'm
division.
not sure, but if the Ravens lose and the Steelers win, then they'll both have the same record. But I'm not sure who has the tiebreaker.
I guess it goes to head and then division record or something.
But yeah, they're tied in the head-to-head. So
Oh, okay.
um, regardless, I would think that the Ravens win.
Okay.
They're playing Cleveland.
Yeah.
So
Oh, yeah.
the AFC North team will be in the 3, and they will in the 3 spot for sure.
Yeah.
And the Texans have that 4 spot lined up with their division win of the AFC South. And now right now it's Steelers at 5 and Chargers at 6. But if the Steelers lose and the Chargers win, then the Chargers will move up to 5 and the Steelers will fall to 6. And right now
Yeah.
the Broncos are in the 7th spot at 9 and 7. They play Kansas City this week. And the crazy thing here, which I'll get to more on later, the Dolphins and the Bengals are still alive. So if the Chiefs beat the Broncos, then the Broncos are essentially eliminated. And if that happens, if the Dolphins beat the Jets, the Dolphins are the team that gets in. But if the
Right.
Jets beat the Dolphins and the Bengals beat the Steelers, then the Bengals are the team that gets in.
It gets messy.
So
This
the
is going
fact
to
that
be
the
a really
Dolphins are still
interesting one.
alive here is kind of crazy to me. I don't know how it's gotten to that point. But
I told you they've kind of snuck
I
around, and
thought they were dead. I knew they were like hanging around, but I thought that it's one of their losses that they had a few weeks ago was it. But I didn't realize they were still fully in it.
I mean, they won 6 of 8. Like that'll put you in a chance. Like, yeah, they had a bad start. They didn't have Tua for a while, but they have a chance. Even though, yeah, with probably no Tua this week, that is a serious concern. He's doubtful. So whenever I see doubtful, I automatically
And
assume.
Miami's playing in New York in the cold, so that's
Yeah,
not
that's not.
ideal for
That's
them.
not. That doesn't match up well for them. Yeah.
So that's how it looks in the AFC. We could have some movement in the wild cards a little bit.
Yep.
In the NFC, the Lions sit at 1 and the Vikings sit at 5. The winner of that game on Sunday, tomorrow, will shoot up to number 1 with a 15-2 record. And then the loser of that game will be the 5 seed at 14-3.
Just
So those
ridiculous.
are two locked up, just a flip flop. The Eagles will be the 2 seed with their 13-3 record. The 3 seed will be the Rams at 10-6, I believe. Yeah,
Yeah.
and if they win or lose, I don't know if it really matters. The 4 seed will be the Buccaneers or the Falcons. If the Bucks beat the Saints, they will get the 4 seed. If the Bucks lose and the Falcons win, then I think they're tied. I think the Bucks have the Falcons won both those games, did they not? They won at home.
Think yeah, they won at home.
I'm not
Yeah.
sure what all the tiebreakers are. It doesn't clearly state it.
Gets confusing. Yeah.
It
But
definitely does get confusing, but
yeah.
I would expect that it's the Buccaneers. But they both are playing the bad teams in the division, so um, they will be in the 4 spot regardless of
Right.
what happens. Then we said that NFC North is 5. The Commanders and the Packers are both 11-5. So for the 6 and 7, if they both win, the Commanders will have the 6 and the Packers will have the 7. If the Packers win, then they'll move to 6 with the Commanders lost to Dallas. But Dallas is a team that's beatable, and the Packers playing the Bears, so that's a game they should win. So either or, I think you'd rather be playing the Rams than you would be playing the Eagles. So that 6th spot will be pretty important there.
Right.
And that's about it. That's the playoff race. So before we get into our picks, once again, follow us on social media at SRL.media and check out this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Let's get into it. Starting with tonight, the Saturday games. There's 2 of them. First one, AFC North. Well, actually, they're all AFC North games today, which
Yep.
is kind of crazy.
AFC North all playing today.
AFC North Saturday. Cleveland,
Yep.
Baltimore. It's in Baltimore. The Browns are terrible, and the Ravens want to lock up that division. Give me the Ravens.
Give me the Ravens. What's more insane by this too? Just looking at this app right here, it says Baltimore is favored by 20 points, which is just insane. I've never seen that big of a spread this year, but yeah, give me Baltimore by a lot, especially because they're home.
Right. Cincinnati, Pittsburgh. This is the big one. The Bengals need to win to stay alive. The Steelers, they're already in the playoffs, but where will they be seated? And I'm just loving the Bengals mojo right now. I'm gonna keep it rolling. They come out against a team like Denver that's been playing really well defensively, and they find a way. And the Steelers are a similar fit where the offense has been okay at times, and they've had a great defense. I think they're going to be able to do it again, albeit on the road. But Burrow's shown to go in there and win games before. And I think that they just have all the momentum right now where the Steelers are kind of falling backwards a little bit. Give me Cincinnati to get the upset on the road.
Give me Cincinnati as well. Let's roll with some Joe Burrow
We
right
want
now.
some fun.
We want some fun. We want the Bengals in the playoffs. They will make whoever they play in the first round a very tough matchup. So yeah, I want to see the Bengals in the playoffs. I want to see that dynamic offense. But also just for the Steelers, I just don't think that they'll be able to keep up with that offensive firepower. I think that's why they're going to win.
Right. And if they get in, they'd be the 7, and they would end up playing the Bills. And I think that's a nightmare matchup for the
Oh
Bills to be
my
the 2
goodness.
seed.
They do not want to play them. Nope.
Right.
That's crazy.
All right, Carolina and Atlanta, as we touched on. I think Atlanta's at home. They're going to win. So the Panthers have struggled again recently, but they looked a little bit better. They look competent. They're just losing because there's not really much talent there. And the Falcons need this game to have a chance. I think they're going to get it.
I think they're going to get it as well, especially because they're home. And yeah, the Panthers would probably rather play for some draft position. So yeah, give me the Falcons.
All right, Washington and Dallas. It's in Dallas, but Washington, I just love their mojo right now. I'm going to take the Commanders on the road.
Yeah, I'm going to be taking the Commanders here as well. Also Dallas is just horrible at home. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that's just crazy how that happened.
give me the Commanders.
Chicago and Green Bay, it's at Lambeau. The Bears have not won since, like we mentioned before that Hail Mary. Give me Green Bay to get themselves a chance at that 6th seed.
Yep, Bears started 4-2. They're gonna finish 4-13. I will be taking the Packers here. Yep.
Sad.
Yep.
All right, Houston and Tennessee. Houston's really struggled as of late. They're coming off that major loss on Christmas to the Chiefs, but they played 3 games in 10 days. They're probably a little better rested. They're on the road, but they're going to Tennessee, who struggled a lot this year. So give me the Texans to get a nice game. If you get a little bit of good momentum going into the playoffs.
Yeah, give me, shockingly, I'm going to be going with the Titans.
Whoa.
Your favorite team earlier on this year.
Yeah, they did not do me right in the beginning of the year.
They did not do you right, and they still haven't done you right. And I probably should not pick them, but I just don't see the Texans one playing for much. And I think that they're probably, yeah, they're gonna play everyone and everything, but I think for some reason the Titans are gonna get one of those random wins. So I'm gonna be going with the Titans here, and the Texans have been struggling. So yeah,
Yeah,
I'm going
I
with
think you just want the Giants to get a higher pick, but
maybe, hopefully. That would
well,
be
here's
for the
another one for
fans,
you:
Drew Lock.
Jacksonville and
That's for the fans.
Indianapolis. What?
I said that's for the fans, Drew Lock. That would be for the fans.
That would be for the fans. Jacksonville and Indianapolis. Give me the Colts.
Yeah, give me the Colts here as well. They're home. Yeah, there's not really
Jacksonville
much.
has been better. They won 2 games in the last few weeks, but yeah, I'm still taking the Colts.
Yeah.
Buffalo and New England. This one I feel like was a little bit tougher just because the Patriots kept it a close game against Buffalo in recent weeks, and you got to think that the Bills starters aren't going to play the whole game. That being said, I think the Bills have just had the Patriots number in the last few years, regardless. They're just way better coached. So even with not everybody playing, I'm still going to take Buffalo on the road here.
I'm gonna be going with Buffalo on the road here, even though they are. I think they're only playing the first quarter or
I
something
would.
like
They
that.
usually do that,
The
and
first half.
in
I
recent
don't
years
know.
they usually just play the first quarter and then take them out. I remember that happening.
Yeah, so they may just do the first quarter, but they may go crazy enough in the first quarter where it doesn't even matter. Uh, it's tough though because I do think the Patriots are going to give them a tough fight because even though their record is 3-13, they have fought much harder than what it looks like.
Right.
But
And Drake May's been solid too.
Drake May has looked pretty good. But yeah, give me Buffalo here. But it's going to be close. It's going to be close.
Giants, Eagles. Eagles aren't playing really anybody, but give me the Birds. The Giants are going to do what they do and go back to getting a loss and make the fans happy.
Yeah, that's what's making the fans happy, Drew Lock. Take notes. So yeah, I'm gonna be going with the Eagles here as well. Go Birds. Yeah, go Birds. I never thought
That's
I'd say that in
crazy.
my life. Go Birds. Yep.
Last 1 o'clock game of the week, Saints and Buccaneers. I think the Bucks get the win. They're at home. Their offense is firing. The Saints can't even get anything going on offense. They just lost to the Raiders. The Buccaneers lock up the NFC South and that 4th spot with this win here.
Yeah, I mean it's a recipe for a Buccaneers win. The Bucks have something to play for. The Saints don't have anything to play for. And yeah, they need this win desperately. So yeah, give me the Bucks.
All right. 4 o'clock games. Chiefs, Broncos. This is the one that matters for the AFC, for the Bengals and Dolphins to both have a chance. And Mahomes isn't playing. He's been a little banged up, but they don't need to play him because they're already locked up as the one. Carson Wentz is getting a shot here. And it could be a Darnold situation where he plays well and he gets a chance somewhere next year, but he's been coached now. McVay last year, now by Andy Reid and the Chiefs staff this year. And they're playing Denver, who's been playing well, and they almost won the last time. And this game is at Denver. But I'm taking the Chiefs here. I think chaos is going to happen, and the Chiefs played better last week, where Carson Wentz is going to have the chance to step in and show off. He's going to be motivated to not just play, but to play well because he could, get another contract somewhere else because of this game. And he's shown to be a good quarterback in the league before, albeit with some struggles at times. But this is a big game for him, and I think I just want to see the world burn and see the chaos happen. So I have a feeling that the Chiefs are going to do it. Probably be the first team to go 16-1 in NFL history. I'm pretty sure that hasn't happened yet, especially with the new schedule that for a couple of
Right.
years it's been the extra game. And Denver would then be essentially eliminated unless the Dolphins or Bengals don't get it, and that would be an epic collapse. So I'm going to take Kansas City on the road here.
I'm also going with Kansas City on the road here.
Nice.
Even though the Broncos are favored, they obviously have something to play for. The Chiefs don't. I think we're going to see some 2018 Carson Wentz this week.
I really believe it.
I still think he hasn't really gotten a full on fair shake. I think he's a better player than people give him credit for. And yeah, I think he's gonna maybe showcase that against the Broncos defense. So give me the Chiefs here, in a weird way, but yeah,
Yeah.
give me the Chiefs.
And what you said, the Colts and Washington were not in very good places when he was there. So
Right,
this is a good team, even if it's the backups.
right. But like you said last year with Sam Darnold, it's like when you go on a good team and then like learn under them, and then maybe you could blossom somewhere else, like what Sam Darnold did with the Niners
Right.
last
And
year.
again, and Wentz has shown it before. So we'll see.
Right.
It's kind of riding on him. All right, Chargers and Raiders. I think the Chargers are pretty much locked where they are, but they want to get maybe they could jump one spot in the wild card. So they're going to be playing guys. They're going to go into Las Vegas and probably win this game.
Yeah, they're probably going to win this game by a pretty healthy margin. Yeah, I just think they're just a more talented team on paper, honestly. That's really what it comes down to. I think they're going to take that pretty handily.
All right, Seattle and LA. This one's a little bit tough. You got to wonder if LA is going to be playing everybody, but I'm going to go with the Rams. Seattle's offense hasn't really been getting it done for me lately, and I think this will be another low-scoring game, but the Rams will pull it out, being the home team.
Yeah, I think the Rams pulled this out as well. They again have their position pretty much locked up, but I just think that they want to have a good rhythm getting into the playoffs and everything. So yeah, give me the Rams. I also just want to make a quick note here. How horrible the Rams were this year to start things out because they were injured, and we basically wrote them off in the beginning of the year. And now they may win 11 games, which is insane. I
Crazy.
think they started off what, like 1 in like 4 or something. I don't know. They had like a horrible start, and now they may win 11 games, which is insane.
Impressive.
Yeah, shows McVay's excellence. Yeah.
Well, Miami and the Jets, and on the contrary, the Jets were 2-1, and now they're 4-13. But yeah, they're playing Miami, and the Jets are at home, and this game matters for that whole Kansas City, Denver, Cincinnati, Miami tree.
Yeah.
And call me crazy, I'm taking the Jets.
Wow.
And I usually don't, but I think the weather's going to matter. There's no Tua, and I just think this is a game like culminating in this disastrous season for the Jets that it might hurt their draft stock if they win this game. But wouldn't you want to be the team that eliminates one of your fierce rivals from your entire team's existence from making the playoffs? Does that matter? And I think these players have been frustrated all year, and they've had some moments where things could have gone right. And I think this is a game where they're going to rally. I think the guys, as bad as it's been, for the most part, respect Aaron Rodgers, and this could be his last game of his NFL career. We don't know that, but they said there's a possibility he doesn't play again if he doesn't get signed. You never know what's going to happen. So this could be his last game. I think he's going to want to come out and play well and win this game. I think the guys around him are going to want to come out and play this game. Maybe not Garrett Wilson because he's been frustrated with him. But I think they all respect Coach Jeff Ulbrich, too. He's obviously not going to be back because the interim job has been a disaster for him.
Yep.
So I just feel like this is a game that the Jets have a lot to, not literally to play for, but figuratively want to win this game and eliminate their rivals from being in the playoffs. So I just see all those factors, and them being the home team, that they're going to want to go out and get this win. So I'm going to not guarantee it, but I'm going to pick the Jets this week.
I just like, if I'm a Jets fan, I don't care about eliminating a rival. I care about 10 years from now, 5 years from now. But I see what you're talking about. I see your argument. It's just I will be going with the Jets here, but solely because Tua's not playing. If Tua was playing, I would be taking the Dolphins because they obviously have a lot more to play for. But like you mentioned, with the conditions, with possibly Aaron Rodgers' last game, they probably are more motivated than ever at this point of the year to try to get a win. And yeah, like you say, though, the conditions definitely do play a factor. But Tua obviously is a difference maker for the Dolphins. They obviously win a lot more with him versus not. And even Tyreek is questionable, but he's been questionable basically throughout this entire year, so he's
Yeah.
probably going to play. But if for some reason he didn't play either, then that's another issue. But yeah, give me the Jets here, but again, it's mainly because of conditions and for Tua not playing. If Tua was playing, I would be taking the Fins. But
Right.
also, I would want to see the Bengals in the playoffs, like everyone.
I think
So
most people
yeah,
do, yeah. Listen,
that's
if you're a
it.
Jets fan, it's a win-win scenario this week, you know. If you win, then you eliminate the Dolphins from the playoffs. If you lose, your draft pick is high. So I think it's a good way to end the season. The way as bad as it's been.
It's
Um,
fair.
all right.
You're saying.
San Francisco and Arizona. The 49ers played well last week against the Lions. Arizona's been reeling lately. I'm going to take the Niners on the road, close out this year with a win.
I am gonna be going with the Cardinals here. I just think the Cardinals have been much better than advertised, and I think that they're kind of ahead schedule. And again, the Niners don't really have much to play for right now. Neither do the Cardinals, but I think that in terms of like pride, it would look really good to start realizing that the Cardinals are really starting to turn this around as an organization to be very bad last year and now flip it to 8-9. I think that would be very promising for them.
And I
So
agree with you. They've been moving up in the right direction. This was a
definitely,
shocking year, surprising for how well they were. They were in it for most of the year. But
yeah,
I just think the talent on the Niners, this is a game that at this point in the year, they're just, their experience.
no
They're just
Purdy
going to
though,
win
no
and
Purdy,
move into the next year.
no Purdy.
Yeah.
It makes it tough. I don't know. It's gonna be a good game. It should be a good game, but
They'll
teams don't have
arrive.
anything to
Three
play
games, a
for.
divisional game this week.
Yeah.
And the big one, the big behemoth,
Oh my god.
Minnesota, Detroit, Sunday Night
Oh,
Football. Winner for the 1 seed and the
oh,
NFC
jeez.
North. Loser is the 5 seed. Blame the NFL's playoff format if you want,
Yep,
but
I
this
will.
is it. All comes down to this. The fact that the Vikings are 14-2 is crazy. The Lions, we knew this would happen, and they've been on a tear. And it's really a tough game to decide, especially with both teams have been so good and have had their moments. But it's going to be a fun one.
I need to
You want me
take.
to go first?
Yeah, I just the Lions should win this game, and I'm gonna be taking the Lions. They should win this game. Now, I've been doubting the Vikings the entire year, and watch them win this game. That could easily happen. I could totally see that happening. Sam Darnold goes crazy or whatever. I could see it happening. But the Lions have to win this game. They they've been advertised as basically the best team all year, and this is a game. This is a must-win game. You need. It's not even about the resting. It's more about the home field advantage here at the playoffs, which I feel like is a big factor. And if you lose this game, you're now a road warrior, which is just weird to say. Like, you need to then win on the road, which is ridiculous. Shout out to the whatever NFL format, playoff format. Not crazy about it. But yeah, uh, I don't know. I'm gonna go with the Lions because they should win this game. Not because, I mean, for any rhyme or reason, the Vikings could easily come out and win. But I I'm gonna go with the Lions. I'm going with the Lions.
I'm going with the Vikings. I
Wow.
think that
Wow.
just everything is just all year been shocking that the
Yeah.
Vikings have won these games. And I think it's just gotten to the point where they've gotten themselves in a win and not win an in scenario, but a win and, get the number one scenario
Yeah.
that nobody's believed it all year.
No.
And Darnold has shown out. The offense is clicking. The defense is playing well. And again, like you said, I could see the Lions winning this game. Like
Yeah.
this
I
is
can the
probably
Vikings.
the hardest game of the entire season for either of
Correct.
us to pick.
Yeah.
So you can't, you're going to go down swinging if you lose. One of us will now be wrong. But I
Let's
just think
have
the
them pick
Vikings
different
are
ones.
going to want to make a statement. It's been all talk about how the Lions have been the best team in the last 2 years.
Yep.
And even though historically they haven't been. So I'm thinking Minnesota's going to want to go in and they're going to want to shut them up. They're going to try and keep it close for a while. And usually they try to, I don't think they've had any games they've really dominated. They've all been kind of at the end. So it's going to be a close game for most of it. But I just feel like
Yeah.
Minnesota's going to have that spark in that fourth quarter and just shock the Lions, go in there and get the win.
I like that we pick different teams. I think that's gonna make it. Watch. We're tied at that point, and
I
then
think that's what's going to happen.
that would be crazy. That would be crazy. Wow. I hope that happens. That would be
That would
fun.
be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But that's it. That's the last pick of
Wow.
the 2024 NFL regular season. And for SRL and the NFL, we thank everybody for tuning in all season long to listen to our picks and our discussion on the NFL. But we're not going anywhere. Every week with the playoffs and for the offseason, we'll be here discussing the NFL. But that'll do it for this week 18 episode of SRL on the NFL. Make sure to check us out on social media at srl.media on Instagram and TikTok. And check out this podcast at SRL Media on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube for the video version. Once again, this was episode 18 of SRL on the NFL. My name is Brennan Yerkes, joined with Alex Vacciaponte. Thank you so much for listening.